Yes, people, what's happening? Welcome back to the channel and welcome to another live stream. And over the weekend, Chelsea completed the signing of Ukrainian winger Mykhailo Mudryk from Shakhtar Donetsk for a total package worth up to 100 million euros if all add-ons are met. Chelsea swooped in, hijacked the deal under Arsenal's noses, got it done over the weekend, and he was on the pitch at half-time in Chelsea's 1-0 win against Crystal Palace. But like myself, I don't think too many of us know an awful lot about Mykhailo Mudryk, so no one better to get on than British Ukrainian sports journalist Andrew Todos to help give the lowdown on Chelsea's new man and what we can expect from him. Andrew, welcome to the show. Thanks so much for coming on. So yeah, like myself, I think Mykhailo Mudryk, for a lot of people, probably appeared on their radars during the group stage of the Champions League this season, where he impressed in a number of games for Shakhtar. But just to start with, what's his journey been like? Still only 22 years of age, less than 100 appearances in senior football overall. What's kind of been his career journey so far to this point?
Well, thanks for having me on, Charlie. Looking forward to chatting about Mudryk over the next half hour or so. Well, to be honest, I think you're probably in the same boat as quite a lot of people, and especially when you see the total fee being mooted around that Shakhtar got for him, it sort of brings even more surprise because of the unknown entity that he is outside of Ukraine, really, and outside those people that watch European football maybe a bit more closely in terms of Ukrainian football. That is. Essentially, he's been blowing up per se, properly getting on the road to his current peak over the past 18 months or so. So he only started making the first team properly around the time when Roberto De Zerbi arrived at Shakhtar in the summer of 2021. And essentially before that, he was still getting call-ups to the senior team, but he wasn't really playing under the former manager Luis Castro, under Paulo Fonseca. They sent him out on a couple of loans. He was playing in the UEFA Youth League against, the likes of City under-19s and other sides that I saw him in during that period. And then essentially Luis Castro, who was the manager before Roberto De Zerbi, he had a few issues with Mudryk. Mudryk was still a bit immature. He was focusing a lot on making skill videos and TikToks and sort of that kind of stuff rather than focusing fully on his football. And the two loan spells that he had at Arsenal Kiev and the Snachynik, they were far from, optimal in how they resulted. He didn't really get any. He got a few appearances at both of them, but he didn't really do anything that you would say, wow, this guy's pretty amazing, or wow, he's got a big future ahead of him. Whereas once De Zerbi arrived, he took him under his wing. Even just today, De Zerbi released a comment saying that Mudryk is someone who needs a lot of affection as a player. And I think that's exactly what De Zerbi did. And I think it seems to me that De Zerbi is a very good people person and manager of a coach. So he took him under his wing, gave him that sort of pat on the head, the validating comment saying, yeah, you are great. You are a great footballer. You've got the potential. Come on, I can help you out with your career. Just, I'll keep my faith in you as long as you start performing on the pitch for me as well. And he slowly started getting integrated into the first team. He wasn't starting every game under De Zerbi because there was at that time still quite a lot of Brazilians in the team, like Tete, also the Manuel Solomon, who's currently at Fulham, and a few others. But basically what happened was De Zerbi gave him his Champions League debut against Real Madrid. Mudryk didn't really do anything from a goals or assist point of view in that game, but he had a few quite fast turns, a few sprints, a few dribbles, and even the crowd at the Bernabeu during that game took to him. They gave him a standing ovation as he walked off, and that I think was the first time that people outside of Ukraine properly saw what he was like. And even for me, I would say, being in the stadium watching that, it was like the first time you saw that potentially this guy could do it in a league outside of Ukraine and in one of the big leagues, if he's playing this well in his first Champions League start against Real Madrid, who went on to win the competition that year. Then, obviously, the full-scale invasion happened in February. Ukrainian football was meant to just be returning from its winter break. It didn't. And then all of the foreigners in Shakhtar's team more or less left due to FIFA ruling and everything else. And this essentially gave the opportunity for Mudryk to fully establish himself and fully solidify that left wing position, and even become one of the leaders of the team, not in a captain sense per se, but just as one of the best players. And as he did so during these sort of spring charity friendlies, he was scoring in them, contributing quite a lot in them, and doing an awful lot. Then he made his Ukraine debut in those World Cup playoffs. He was playing a few Ukraine friendlies in the time as well. And then the summer came, De Zerbi left, Jovic came in, but he's very similar to De Zerbi, as in he's one of those managers that will manage you in terms of give you compliments, help you out quite good on a personal level. And I think everyone has seen the results of that this season. If anything, you could say Mudryk's first proper senior half season, where he's a proper starter, where he's actually been contributing consistently and everything else. And the results were seen in the Champions League, etc. Whether that validates 100 million is another question, but we are where we are.
In terms of the view from Ukraine, is there an element of surprise over there that he's gone for so much, potentially up to 100 million euros if the add-ons are hit? And is there a surprise that this move's also happened so early in his career for still a relatively inexperienced player?
A bit of both, really. I think the fee everyone was taken back by, because we've been hearing about that fee for months now. Dario Serna, the Shakhtar sporting director, quoted it saying that that's what the club wants. And, it's been reiterated here and there by everyone who's been covering the transfer when Mudryk was apparently going to Arsenal. And obviously, now that it's actually happened, the 100 million was offered by both sides, as per the Shakhtar CEO. It was just in different packages of how it was going to be paid, etc. And that's why I think Chelsea prevailed, along with other reasons, of course. In Ukraine, though, yeah, they were surprised that Shakhtar actually were able to get that money. They were not expecting someone to pay that in the grand scheme. The same with everyone else in Europe saying, well, 100 million for a relatively inexperienced player. And in all honesty, the majority of Ukrainians probably hadn't really heard of Mudryk. The average neutral fan may not have heard him until that Real Madrid game that I was talking about in 2021. And then they started knowing a bit more about him just over the past year. So, yeah, it's been quite a whirlwind roller coaster for everyone in Ukraine with regards to even learning about Mudryk as well, probably in similar levels to what's going on with it over here and everywhere else in Europe to the news of this transfer. But in general, I think that there is a feeling that this guy is special, regardless of the fact that he went for that money. He may live up to that fee. Maybe he might not be it right now, but there is the potential that he can do that with the attributes that he's got, with the mentality that he's got. And even just the way he sort of acts and looks, he just sort of seems sort of this hell-bent superstar image with the way his appearances as well. So, yeah, I think the general consensus was surprised, but also everyone's actually quite happy. And wow, Ukrainian football has become one of the most expensive players of all time, especially in a period sort of as troubling and sort of as uncertain as we're currently in, and Ukrainian football in the same light.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, would it be fair to say that Mudryk is probably the brightest talent in terms of coming out of Ukraine in terms of the national team as well? He's by far kind of the most talented one of the next generation per se. There's kind of no other guys that kind of alongside him coming through as well. He's very much kind of the standout guy.
For the time being, yeah, that's for certain. As in the one that seems to be sort of ready to hit the road and ready for that move. Like, I think the fact that we just mentioned that at this young age, was it a surprise that he'd be going with the relatively the relative inexperience. I'd say that it's a good thing. A lot of people are quite positive about it because the thing that usually happens in Ukraine is that clubs don't let their players leave until they're like 25, 26, 27. And by then they've got no room for development under a new manager. They end up, stagnating. A lot of them don't know the language to the countries that they're going to. And it's all, it all seems a bit beyond the pale kind of thing. Whereas now it's literally, this is like optimum time. Yes, he's had a couple of years in Ukraine where he's started hitting the ground running, but he's still so raw. If he goes to one of these better leagues, because of his sort of physical attributes that he's been working on over in recent months and over the past year or so, and just the way that he is so determined, there is a hope that he can reach that next level and reach that elite, pool of players, and hopefully become one of those proper world-class talents that everyone is hoping that he can become.
Yeah, I mean, that's certainly the aim. I think hopefully, certainly Chelsea will be hoping they're going to get a very good player on their hands. Obviously, a large investment, the transfer fee, the contract, 8+ years, which is a phenomenal, which is a really long contract for football players to sign these days. So we've kind of seen that American way of doing things with a long contract. So hopefully he does come good. But I think the most important thing is, what kind of a player are Chelsea getting? I mean, I've heard Graham Potter after the Palace game describe him as fast, direct. He thinks that the crowd are going to like him. What sort of a player is he? Obviously, he's an attacking player, but is he very much left-sided winger? I mean, what sort of a player is he? Where does he kind of excel best? And how's he been used at Shakhtar? Because obviously it's going to be different at Chelsea. At Shakhtar, obviously he would have been the main man with virtually all the football going through him. But at Chelsea, he'll just be kind of another cog in the machine, as it were, alongside an array of star names. So how do you see that sort of working out for him?
So I think we should probably just talk about how he plays at Shakhtar at the moment. He's predominantly a left winger. I think he can play a bit more centrally if needed, but his physical attributes and his technical attributes, I think, are best suited at the moment anyway to play on a wing. But he seems to be best coming in as an inverted winger, not to an extent of like an Iron Robin or even Andrew Yarmolenko, who always cut in on their right foot or left foot and try and find the top corner. He's not like that at all. He's got a very low center of gravity, very fast with the ball at his feet and without. So all he has to do is get himself going, and if he needs to change direction quickly, he's got that very quick potential to sort of decelerate as well as fast as he can accelerate, to beat someone, to have an extra touch, have a feint or something like that will put defenders off him. On top of that, he's got a good range of passing. He's been working on that quite a lot over the past year or so with his sort of end product. He's got a vast array of passes. He can go in for the flares, like flare passes and stuff, and the kind of thing that you see Modric attempting, outside the foot stuff. Bit of Kevin De Bruyne in there. Obviously, far to reach that level just yet, but you see shades of it. As well as that, he's been working on his finishing of late. So he's been getting a lot of his shots. Most of his shots are going on target compared to other left wingers in the Premier League, like his direct competition. For example, like Martinelli at Arsenal, Jack Grealish, and some others. So I think he's getting like 60% of his shots on target, and that's like one of the high echelons of his position. And on top of that, he stays after training most days to try and work on sort of technique, to try and better himself on that left foot that is his weaker foot. And what we've seen, I guess, over the past 6 months especially, is that he's been scoring a few more goals on his left foot, and he's been getting a lot more of that output, that he is scoring goals, he's getting assists. What he does sometimes is he likes to run down to the byline and then try and cut back. He's got a split second to wait because he's so fast, and then he looks for someone in the box. And because Shakhtar, I guess their centre forwards probably aren't to the level of Mudryk, it means that sometimes he can't complete those attacks so well. And what I'm hoping for is around a better, quality squad with hopefully better, centre forwards, especially, and support strikers, and even maybe opposite wingers, that they'll be able to feed into that and finish those chances that are needed for him, or even feed him in as well, rather than him having that burden where he is the main man and he has to do everything. And then what happens is when he's marked out the game, the rest of the team are kind of like, what are we going to do now? And that's why I think at Chelsea, or just any other club where there's a lot of quality, he will excel, because he will be able to share that burden with his other teammates. So if he's doubled up on by two defenders, there'll be space for someone else to exploit that. And just because of that sheer pace and energy that he's got, I think he's going to run the Premier League defenders ragged.
Would you say those are that would be his kind of his main strengths, and his kind of his pace, his dribbling? I mean, what are the things that he's best at? I mean, are there any more to add to that, other than the fact that he's got electric pace, good dribbler?
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, he's like the eye for the pass. I think he'll be getting probably a few more assists than he is goals. That's for certain, in my opinion. He'll improve the creativity of that Chelsea attack, which I think has been a bit of a problem recently.
Massive problem.
Tenfold. However, I think I've spoken to a few other Chelsea fans over the past few days, and I guess the main issue, on top of, the fact is that Mudryk didn't seem like to be such an essential transfer compared to the centre mid that you guys are looking for. And I think that once Chelsea do find that centre mid that they want, that will sort of complete Mudryk being able to sort of reach his full ability in the team, because what he needs is, a lot of the time, or sometimes, someone to feed him those passes in, that are going to go beyond that last defender, so he can run through, latch onto them, ball over the top as well, and reverse passes. So once that, I think, is complete, obviously there is this sort of transition phase, this transition season per se, and I feel that maybe because of the current situation Chelsea are in, the fact is that he probably will be coming in relatively quickly to start. And if he's given sort of a bit of a run of games, he's given that positivity, he's given that support from the fans, from Potter and everyone else, then he really can excel, and hopefully even add that drive and determination that he's got, that mentality, into some of the other players around him who seem to be lacking it for the time being. Especially like a Kai Havertz, who in recent times just looks like a slumped shoulders kind of player.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, I think he probably is going to hit the ground running, be chucked in at the deep end, most likely to make his debut at Anfield this weekend. So it's a pretty bit of a baptism of fire for him there. But in terms, obviously, we can't just say everything that he's good at. All young players and players in general have got things that they need to work on. What would you say his weaknesses are right now? What does he kind of need to improve on? What in his game needs kind of ironing out a little bit?
So I think he's certainly still raw. So I think he needs to probably improve on his decision making. We've alluded to the fact that he loves running at defenders, dribbling past them. He's good at beating players. But what he does a lot of the time is he takes things on himself a bit too much. And I think it might take a bit of getting used to having slightly improved quality players around him that he can pass to, and that they can, solve the situation, not just him. So I think his decision making will probably have to improve, where instead of beating the third man after beating two players, he'll pass it simply, rather than going for some Hollywood pass, or going for a shot or something like that. So that, I think, is number one. Similarly, I think he will probably need a bit of work on his finishing as well. Like I said, he's improving in the goals, but I think he can do better and more. Like I said, he gets a lot of those shots on target, but I think there just needs to be maybe something, an improvement in the power, and other stuff for him to fully start, becoming that 10+ goal a season consistently. And obviously, for the price tag that he's got on him, getting closer to 20 in reality. On top of that, I think maybe tracking back might be a bit also another thing. He because of his attributes in terms of his pace, he does love coming back a bit, but maybe his defensive qualities can improve slightly, because what he does is he likes to drop in a bit, try and ask for the fullback to feed him, and then he'll try and feed something in, still within his own final third. And that, I think, probably needs a bit of honing in on. And then we will just see him maybe dropping back a bit, supporting that fullback a bit more, supporting that, I guess, left side central midfielder that will probably be there, Mason Mount or whoever is going to be playing there. And that should hopefully just help make him a bit more all-rounded on the pitch. So maybe a bit less of a left winger and sort of that byline left mid if required.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, obviously, the big question is, has he got the capabilities to kind of make the step up? Because obviously, the Ukrainian league compared to the Premier League is a bit of a gulf in class. There's a big difference in the leagues. We've seen other players make it successfully. We've seen Willian come from Shakhtar over to Chelsea. We've seen Fernandinho come over. Like, players have made that step up. If you're good enough, then the step up shouldn't be a problem. But I mean, how big an adaptation phase do you expect Mudryk to have? I mean, can we expect to see the best of him in this first sort of 6 months, or are we thinking actually maybe next season is when we're going to really start to see what he can do?
You know what? I think that he will try and hit the ground running straight away, but I feel that the impact of the rest of the team might have an involvement, just essentially. I don't know whether he could, fully. He might have a few good performances, but if the whole team's not playing too well, it might sort of amalgamate that it's not too good. And the fact that the team is currently in the situation where it's in might have an impact. I feel that this 6 months is sort of perfect for him in that respect, because Chelsea don't have too much to play for. I guess you might say that you're resigned from a top 4 place in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah.
So what that I think might help him with is sort of easing himself in, learning like the combinations that he can do with players, the telepathy that you want to have with your teammates, despite the fact some of them might be leaving in the summer and the clear out that everyone's expecting. But I think that he certainly will contribute a fair bit until the end of the season. Just sort of get that introduction into him, maybe not set the league alight just yet. And if he does, fair enough. And then after a full pre-season, when, after a few friendlies and everything else bedding in, then he should be all good. Because currently, he's not played football since mid-November because of the Ukrainian winter break. Yeah. So he's literally just coming in cold. As in, he's been at Shakhtar's training camp for the past week, but they've not even played a friendly yet. They're playing the friendly start next week or towards the end of this week. So essentially, if he starts at Anfield, I'd be surprised, in all honesty. He might say that he's ready and all that kind of thing, but I don't know, 60 minutes against Liverpool, regardless of the kind of form that they're in, for sort of being thrown in that deep end, might be a bit too soon, in my opinion. I see what I envision. I don't know. Potter may just go for it, but what I see is maybe him coming on last 20 minutes, trying to run at Trent when he's a bit more tired, and literally sort of give him a difficult last half hour, whatever, final third period, and then fully come into the team for that Fulham game at the start of February, because obviously there's no because of obviously the FA Cup midweek break as well, so should give him a bit more time as well to train with the team too. So yeah, we'll see how it goes, but yeah, I'm hoping that there should be some positive impact fairly quickly after his debut.
I mean, in terms of his potential ceiling, or it's always hard to quantify with young players just how good they're going to become. Some might hit their peak early, others might take a bit longer, or some just don't live up to the hype of their early years. We've seen obviously Roberto De Zerbi, current Brighton manager, Mudryk's former manager at Shakhtar, say that he thinks he could potentially be a future Balon d'Or winner. I mean, obviously it's impossible to quantify whether that's going to happen or not, but how sort of within football, with the view from Ukraine and stuff, how high is his ceiling potentially? I mean, are there really high expectations for Mudryk to kind of really elevate Ukrainian football, be like, the next poster boy of of Ukrainian football and be kind of like a world star, perhaps the first since the likes of Shevchenko potentially.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. That's even the comparison that he's been given. Not as like, obviously, they're completely different players
Yeah,
profile wise, but from a Ukrainian football put on the map kind of potential for sure. Andrew Shevchenko was similar in his age when he left Dynamo Kiev to move to AC Milan. So it's sort of like similar paths in that sense. There wasn't the biggest fee paid for him, well, compared to Mudryk, so I guess the pressure is on a lot higher. And Shevchenko had a couple or 3 seasons on quite big 3 seasons under his belt at Dynamo Kiev when they were like one of the best teams in Europe towards the end of the
yeah,
90s, you know, beating Barca, Real Madrid, and everyone else. So I would say that maybe Shevchenko was even more ready when he left Ukraine for AC Milan or something like that. Whereas this kind of transfer, I think that he has got the potential to do that Ballon d'Or, to get that Ballon d'Or if he puts his mind to it. Obviously, the as far as I'm aware, I don't think the Ballon d'Or comes in the clause that Chelsea are going to
no,
be paying. So
apparently it's not in
so
there. Yeah,
that says a lot about what Shakhtar wanted in terms of their realistic things. And I know at the end of the day, you see the sort of you have to achieve quite a lot in a season to win the Ballon d'Or. So you have to,
yeah,
you know, be a top scorer relatively, you know, win the Champions League, probably help your team to the Premier League as well. Obviously, I mean, at the current stage, I don't think Chelsea are in a prime position to sort of be challenging that for maybe another season and a half. Once, you know, this project fully gets underway and everything's sort of in place with optimal conditions. But obviously, he's there for 8 years, so
yeah.
we might be able to see something come out of that over the next few seasons. But I mean, he's got the drive, he's got the determination. Like I said, he's even, you know, got those comparisons to Cristiano Ronaldo and Ibrahimovic and Erling Haaland, where they're so certain in themselves and their own ability, like how good they are. You know, even to the point that some would say it's delusional or something like that. But it's like, no, we're gonna be going for it. And he's in the gym like 24/7 when he's not on the training pitch or anything like that. He's got a personal trainer that he works with all the time. Literally just today, his personal trainer posted a bit of like a little montage of him of Mudryk already in like the Chelsea
Yeah,
gym
he's in the
wearing his
gym.
Chelsea
Yeah,
training gear. So you know what I mean? It's like the grind never stops, and the fact that if he's got that grind in him, and he doesn't seem to be this. Whilst he's got sort of he loves Instagram, he loves being on social media and all that kind of stuff. He's not like a bad boy in a sense that he's going to be going clubbing and doing all
yeah.
this kind of stuff that we see the likes of maybe Jack Grealish get and Phil Foden getting into problems over the past few years. So, in general, I think he's got everything in place for him to reach that potential. I just guess that hopefully Chelsea can complement him in that position to do so.
Yeah, I think that's going to be the key. Can we get the right players around him as well, and provide him with the service that he requires, and hopefully he can then kind of repair us so we can get a centre forward that can actually score goals. He can get on the end of those chances because at the end of the
Yeah,
day, it doesn't matter how creative a player you are. If, you can put as many balls into the box as you want, play as many through passes, but if the guy on the end of them is not
yeah.
finishing them, then your stats are going to look poor when it's not really kind of your fault. Just wanted to round out with two very quick things. The first one, obviously, Arsenal were very interested in him.
Mm-hmm.
Shakhtar CEO saying that actually, they both offered the same amount of money and whatnot. Is Mudryk happy to join Chelsea? I know he's here now and whatnot, but would he have preferred to have joined Arsenal? What's kind of the sort of the view from Ukraine in terms of was he really set on Arsenal, or is it very much just like he wants to move to the Premier League?
A bit of both, to be honest, because as the CEO revealed today when he was talking to Talk Sport or The Athletic, can't remember exactly which one, he was saying that Arsenal tapped him up back in October before they even made sort of contact with the club. So obviously they've been chatting in his ear saying, oh, we really want you. And he had calls from Arteta and Zinchenko and everything else. So it's just the fact that Arsenal were, I guess, in a more advanced stage before Chelsea arrived. And at the end of the day, I think I don't think the importance is of what club he really wanted to join. I think he wanted to join the Premier League, and he wants to show what kind of player he is, regardless of whatever team he plays for. And now that he's at Chelsea, he's going to give it, 100%. And on top of that, I think he also has got, I think probably in himself, he thought that he's probably got better chances of hitting the first team straight away compared to the fact that they've got Martinelli in there, who's quite established. Maybe it would have been even slower introduction over these 6 months if he joined Arsenal, because Martinelli's advanced. They'd win the Premier League and all that, but it might have been a bit difficult. Whereas I feel that Graham Potter told him, "Hey man, you can be the star in this team. We currently have a few problems. We've got injuries in your position as well. If you can show yourself, then you can be in that. You can be in that role forever, and you can be, well, not forever, but for the foreseeable, and you can become one of the top players, the leaders of the team."
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, obviously, there's going to be a lot of players going out at Chelsea. At the moment, it'll be competing with the likes of Sterling, Pulisic once they're fit, and whatnot. But ultimately, when players move on in the summer, I think he's going to be playing a lot of football at Chelsea. Potter's spoken to him, kind of very, very convinced of the Chelsea project. More of those comments from Shakhtar's CEO today saying, right now Chelsea are kind of in trouble, but you can see the vision of the project, and in the next sort of 2-3 years, it's very much kind of not with the now in mind, but more perhaps sold on the potential in the next few years. Last thing to round out, just to clear it up, there's obviously reports. Well, it's not reported. Well, yes, it has been reported, but obviously, money has gone towards the Ukrainian relief efforts. Now, there seems a bit of confusion. People seem to kind of thinking that this has come out of the transfer fee directly. Could you just clear that up for everyone, just so it's kind of there's no confusion at all?
Yeah, absolutely. So yesterday, after the transfer happened, the Shakhtar owner, Rinat Akhmetov, who's a billionaire himself, released a statement where he spoke about Mudryk, but he also spoke about the launch of a new charity initiative where he's going to be helping soldiers and families of dead soldiers that were from Mariupol, where he's got a lot of business interests and is quite close to his heart and everything else. If there were some journalists out there who completely misquoted what he actually said in black and white in English translation on the Shakhtar website, where somehow he said something on the lines of, "I am going to be allocating $25 million to the families of and soldiers and everything," whereas someone added in from the transfer fee, which was not included in the actual piece.
Yeah.
Essentially, I'm sure that Chelsea fans and probably everyone will have known by now is that Shakhtar actually masters of PR when it comes to things. They kind of smashed it on Twitter on the day that Mudryk signed, where they were just trolling, free Mudryk and all that other kind of things. And, they got like an extra 10,000 followers out of it just for absolutely nothing, really. And they've done other things in the past where they release sort of statements that are so outrageous on the front of them, like when they said that Iran should be banned from the World Cup and Ukraine should replace them, and everyone was saying, "What the hell? That's completely ridiculous." But the main goal of that was to get everyone talking about the fact that Iranian drones were being used against civilians in Ukraine, and through something so ridiculous, you're getting people talking about sort of the real issue. And that's the same here. Basically, Akhmetov, I guess he's not a very public person. He rarely gives public statements. He gave that statement. He sort of basically wanted to kill two birds with one stone. And I think, if anything, it played into his hands that someone misinterpreted that or assumed that the transfer fee was connected. He actually just basically added, it was like basically a PS. "Oh, I'm also setting this up because whilst there's Mudryk hype, everyone's going to be interested in Shakhtar, so why don't I just release this news at the same time?" And as also the CEO of Shakhtar today confirmed that, said that it's coming out of his own sort of business's money, because if it was coming out of the Mudryk transfer fee, it would have said explicitly Shakhtar are giving this money to the thing, whereas this is literally just coming from the owner and it's not to do with the club. So I hope that's cleared everything up, and I've made a fair few tweets about it as well to avoid any confusion, any conspiracy theories as well.
Yeah, no, it's just good to clear that up because you see a lot of things online, like, you know, this can't gone from the transfer fee and whatnot. So yeah, it's important just to clarify that is that's certainly not what happened. Yeah, seems like a pretty good point to round out. Andrew, thanks so much for all the insight on Mudryk. Certainly looking forward to seeing him in action in a Chelsea shirt. Hopefully next weekend at Anfield, if not next Friday at home to Fulham, and we can just see how good Mudryk could become for Chelsea. Before I go, mate, if people want to check out more of what you do, your work and stuff, where is the best place for them to go?
Oh, thanks for having me on, Charlie. Been a good half hour chatting. And yeah, if anyone wants to find me, I'm on Twitter and Instagram at Zorya Londonsk. And if you want to listen a bit more about Ukrainian football, the new talents coming through, transfers and other stuff, I've got a podcast that I run with two friends. It's called Ukraine Plus Football, and it's available on all podcast platforms.
Yeah, guys, I'll link all of that in the description below, so make sure you head over and check it all out. Thanks for tuning in, as always. Thanks for getting involved in the chat. Make sure you smash the likes on the stream on your way out. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so. I already need to hit 3,000 subscribers as quickly as possible, guys, so please do hit the subscribe button on your way out, and I'll be back in a few days with a preview for the Liverpool game on Saturday. So until then, take care and catch you soon.